Hello guys, it's Spolrium, and in this tutorial I will apply mastering to a Psytrance Loop. My DAW is FL Studio 12 and will use Izotope Ozone 7 on the master channel. Here's the bounce. It is a 24-bit wave file. And the BPM is 140. Alright, so the song mixed in a way to achieve a loud mix. So my purpose is to get high RMS values. That means I will squash the mix a bit. Let's get this over with. I will open my master channel to insert Ozone 7 and mute it after selection. And then let's open a spectrum analyzer. As you can see, the analyzer is the last module on the FX chain to watch the output of my mastering. So now we need to analyze the spectrum graph to determine the necessities of our mastering process. Okay, so I see that the low end is a bit strong. Especially bass synth plays hard according to this peak value. Well, we can say bass is louder than the kick. Another detail is this meter on the master channel. Our peak is -6 dB, which gives us a room at the moment. The speaking point was determined in the mixing stage. Let me open the analyzer to see movement again. So we have a bit buzzing on the high mids region. This means we can apply a broad cut on that section. Kick's highest peak is around 145 to 165 Hz. With proper equalizer settings, we can decrease this region and increase punchiness to get a solid kick. And for the high-end section, it seems decent and well for now. Alright, so let's enable our Ozone 7 and start with a cutting equalizer. I will find a sweet spot for our low end. If we check the analyzer again, we can see the peak of baseline. The peak is around 50 Hz and we need to consider this fact while applying a cut. I don't want to cut the peak of my bass. So let's get rid of some useless bass information now. While using this equalizer, I will mute other modules like Multiband compressor and maximizer. Alright, so this is my equalizer. We have bands here. They are on a horizontal line like this. To choose a band, simply click on these numbers here. Let's click on Band 1. First section is Curve Model. We have two options like analog and digital. I like the sound and behavior of analog model, so we don't need to change this option. The second tab contains our curve shapes. If we want to set up a low end, the shape we should go for is high pass. So this is a high pass filter and it cuts below targeted frequency in a diminishing fashion like this. To set this decrease style, we can go to this tab which is called Slopes. While in analog mode, we have only three different options: 12 dB, 24 dB, and 48 dB. Well, I won't put a steep curve, so let's use this default 12 dB setting. The other thing is target frequency. We can move this band with our mouse like this. Or simply type a value in here. Let's say 32 Hz. So now my high-pass curve cuts below 32 Hz with a 12 dB slope. We should check this new situation with the analyzer. Well, it seems we cut some rumble here. And also I don't hear a muddiness. Low end sounds tight enough for now. So we can switch to our kick. Let's sculpt it a bit. As you remember, I detected a peak around 145 to 165 Hz. We can apply a cut right away. I will select Band 2 and enable it. The band itself is bell curve by default. So we can see the peaking equalizer movement by rolling this section upwards or downwards. I want to place this cut on 155 Hz, which is the center of this detected peak. Well, I should go for something a bit narrow, but I aim to decrease this region a lot, like 5 dB. We can either move these shapes left and right to get a narrow or a wide curve. .3 seems decent. Let's test the track. Well, I should make this wider, some value like 1.5. Cool, then let's get to our high-mid section. I will decrease a region while listening to the loop. sounds better now. Let me choose band 7 to create a high-end cut. This time we should go for low pass option. Let's change the curve shape and make it resonant. Resonant type curves may cut a region while boosting the edge of that detected point. We can adjust the resonance value by sliding here. As you can see, it cuts and boosts at the same time. This allows us to create tighter ends. 0.8 seems right to me. And our target frequency should be somewhere on 17,000 Hz. Great. We cut a lot of high frequency information, but still we hear the brightness of the song. Next step is to open an exciter module. You can change the signal chain by dragging your modules like this. My exciter is the second module on the chain. And it has a multiband function, which means we can apply excitation on separate bands. This purple area is our first band. If we click and drag this line here, we can set our upper crossover position of low band. (2000 Hz) is the point. So I won't apply any exciter effect on the sub-bass band, because I want to hear pure sub-bass instead of distorted sounds. However, if we switch to the second band here, we may apply some excitation. Let's solo it first to hear the result in isolation. Solo function mutes other bands. This segment is dedicated to exciter types. Each one has a different taste and algorithm, but I will go for warm for now. Let's increase the value of the amount. And decrease the value of mix. Cool, I can hear my new harmonics, and as a result, I added a small distortion to my second band. Let's switch to the third band. While soloing the third, we need to mute the second one. We'll do it the same way, increase the amount first. Nice. And for the last band, let's tweak it right away. Let's enable oversampling option. It increases the quality of this module but requires more processing power. So it's time to compress the song. Let's enable multiband compressor by clicking on this power button. Again, we see multiple bands. First band covers our bass frequencies. Let's drag this to 200 Hz again. Then I will solo my first band by clicking on here. The band I'm working on will apply compression between 20 to 2000 Hz. If we want to hear a compression, we need to drag this horizontal bar downwards. So subregion needs to be squashed a lot. First thing I should do is to set the ratio. Let's go for a heavy compression and set this to 5.0 to 1. This means if our signal go above our threshold by 5 dB, it will be reduced to 1 dB. In other words, our threshold is minus 30.1 dB. If our signal plays a peak like minus 25.1 dB, the result of the signal will be minus 30.1 dB again. So we are trying to apply a 5 dB of gain reduction here. This red indicator is our reduction meter. And this section is dedicated to reduction values. I see that we are applying more than 5 dB reduction to our signal. So let's decrease this ratio to 2.0 to 1. As you can see, the gain reduction average is 5 dB right now. And that was our goal. Next is attack and release times. Attack function operates in milliseconds and is really fast. So if we set this to 40 ms, this means when our signal reaches to threshold, it will take 40 ms to compression kick in. We need to determine the speed with our ears. So let's do that now. So I say it should be 47 ms. Let's switch to release knob. This one also operates in milliseconds. Release function is basically gain reduction recovery time. So in this case, it stops compression in a time and with a curve. Let's determine this one too. It sounds good to me. Release time needs to fit the tempo of our track, which is 140 BPM. You can also make interesting moves or grooves with this knob. The last thing we need to do is output gain or makeup gain. This bar here is our output. It increases or decreases the compressed result. So we basically compressed our subband, applied 5 dB of gain reduction, and the result volume or loudness is lower than the original signal. But the logic of compression is a bit tricky. Let's say we have a bass guitar which produces 45 Hz on minus 20 dB and 90 Hz on minus 15 dB. So if we set a threshold to minus 15 dB and apply a 5 dB of gain reduction, we basically reduce the 90 Hz information by 5 decibels. So technically, on this scenario, our bass produces 45 Hz on minus 20 dB and also 90 Hz on minus 20 dB. Overall loudness is reduced, but my frequencies are sticked or glued together with this way. So if we want to make it louder, we can drag the output volume up. This output volume increase will boost all of my frequencies according to output gain. And the result is a squashed, compressed, and loud bass guitar. Squashing an instrument or a song won't make your song mobile, gentle, or dynamic, but it will only help you to perceive the loudness. For a dynamic song, you need to stay away from aggressive compression. So let's increase the output volume by looking at the spectrum analyzer. Five dB of boost is enough, and our band 1's overall peaking point is minus 20 dB. So let's switch to other bands. I will speed up the video because it is the same process. All you need to do is apply enough compression while listening to the track. Alright, it is finished and let's hear the result. Let me open Analyzer first. Well, my overall peaking point is minus 20 dB and it makes it stable. Let's open a post equalizer. And drag this here. Well, in the beginning, we said we can sculpt our kick by cutting and boosting some frequencies. So as an advice, use cutting equalizer before compression and boosting equalizer after compression. Cut the useless hertz first, because those frequencies may deceive you during compression process. Also, your compressor will process the useless signals for no reason. After compression, boost your desired areas with an equalizer. With this way, you will achieve clear mixes. So I just want to boost the 85 Hz area a bit. Let's select band 1, turn it into a bell curve, then put it on 85 Hz. We'll boost it about 2 dB and it needs to be wider than this. Two 2.5 is enough. Let's check our analyzer again. This is our kick and it sounds fine and seems strong. Let me throw another module called Imager. Well, I only use this one to make my first band mono. Simply drag this bar all the way down. With it, my sub-bass region is now mono. We don't need to stereoize our sub-band. I don't recommend stereoizing it though. And our last module, Maximizer. The first thing we should do is to set a ceiling point. I will go for -1 dB. And click on this True Peak Limiter button. This will prevent my peaks to get clipped in analog domain after rendering process. Every compressed rendering process may create intersample peaks, and those peaks may cause clipping distortion in analog world. Another bar is the second one, which determines the threshold of maximizing function. If we drag this one downwards, we start to feel that our volume is increasing. Let me set this while listening to the loop. After, this bar is my attack and release time combined. .55 is decent. And last thing is my IRC. Intelligent Release Control 3 is my selection. Well, I want to move my low end a bit. .35 Hz is my new sweet spot. And let me add a bit brightness to the song with my post equalizer. Well, this is pretty much it. My aim was to achieve a loud mix, and as you can see, our RMS value is around -5 dB, which means this song's average signal level is around -5 dB. Stay tuned for more tips and tutorials. We'll upload them continuously. I will see you in another video.